AskReddit by Red Y. What's the dumbest reason you've heard for a couple getting divorced? My ex divorced me after his best friend died of a drug overdose. He left me to be with his best friend's girlfriend. He felt he needed to take care of her now that his friend was gone. We had only just met her at the funeral. They broke up within 2 weeks. We had only just met her, but I'm assuming he had met her quite a few times. I knew a couple who had been married for 25 years, and were always supporting each other in what they wanted to do, got on well, doted on their daughter, shared hobbies and from the outside seemed happy. She called me to say they were divorcing, and when I asked if there was anything I could do to help, or if she would like me to babysit while they went to couples counseling, she said no. He wanted the heating on all day every day, and she found it too warm, so there was no way to recover from this. I'm assuming there was more to it. If I take it at face value that it was too warm in the house, I'd put money on her also being in perimenopause, at which point having a house kept very warm could feel like a torture chamber. And that's also a fun life stage where you can become very fed up with all the accumulated bullshit from the previous 25 years. I'm getting divorced because my wife found out that the only thing that helps her depression is my modafinil. She figured out how to order them from India. Takes them at 5 to 10x the dosage, then hallucinates about me having affairs. Best part is, none of her piece of shit family and friends have the guts to tell her it isn't real. And I'm not talking about things that can go either way. My wife accused me of staying in a hotel in Vegas with my girlfriend instead of going to work. I left the house at 7 PM and was home at 6 AM, and I live in Philadelphia. She has a folder on her phone labeled evidence with hundreds of screenshots of absolute nonsense. It's heartbreaking. Sounds like schizophrenic delusions. Scary that a drug can have the same effect if abused. The husband laughed at a joke that was made at the wife's expense. It was their son's birthday party, and things had been tense for a while, but they'd been trying to work on the marriage. A relative was lighting the birthday candles and the wife said, "Why didn't you start lighting from the middle instead of the edge?" The relative retorted, "I thought about doing it that way, but I was worried you'd have nothing to complain about." The husband laughed, the wife stormed off, and that was the end of that. As is always the case, there was more to it. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I gotta know whose relative said that. With that sort of comment, there's a huge difference between, say, her brother and his mom. Like, was this a good-natured joke that didn't land, or very thinly veiled attack? The dumbest excuse I ever heard was when my now ex-wife told me we needed to divorce because a palm reader said I wasn't her soulmate. Apparently, the guy she was fucking behind my back for months was her soulmate, and had nothing to do with why we needed to divorce. Sound like the palm reader was looking out for ya. That sucks, dude. My half-aunt was wanted for murder in Oregon, so her husband said divorce me, and then they can't make me testify against you, so they divorced. And lived together for the next 50 years, in Washington state. No, I know. It doesn't make any sense to me either. Not only stupid, it's the opposite of the law. Spouses can't be compelled to testify against each other. Divorce doesn't help with anything. I heard from my friend who is a lawyer who told me he had a client file for divorce because every morning his wife would ask him how he takes his coffee, for 7 years. I feel like I'm hearing that his wife hadn't listened to him once in 7 years. He was flamboyantly gay. Somehow, she missed what even the kids knew. They went on their honeymoon. He came home and made sure everyone knew how disgusted he was. Humiliated that lady and discussed private moments. Never saw them together after the wedding, and she went on to do well for herself. What a disgusting asshole. My childhood friend married a girl I warned him about. He turned on me hard and accused me of wanting her for myself. Okay homie, you do you. She cheated on him on the honeymoon night. Had something going with her ex on the side. My cousin was previously engaged to a girl like 8 years ago. She cheated on him a few months before the wedding and he broke it off. Fast forward a couple years and he tells me he's having a kid and that she's the mother. They are now married and have another baby, and I'm terrified of what may come. She met a convict grifter 30 years younger who became her sugar baby. She proceeds to pour money on him. He gets arrested and breaks his parole, but all of her money went to his commissary. Finally he gets out and they have like a few months together before he ditches her for his meth dealer. A destroyed family over a jerk. Thanks. When I read things like this that seem so obvious from the outside, I wonder if there were always clues that you missed. That guy that kept trying to force his wife that doesn't like mustard to eat mustard. Sounds like the dude dismisses the slightest boundary. That seems like a fair reason. My friend quit her job and decided she wanted to be an artist, and made no money at it. Her husband worked at the same place she did. When she left, it caused so much drama and they were bad-mouthing her so bad that he had to quit. He started doing freelance work, which didn't pay as much, but it was something. They lost the house and car because they couldn't afford it if she wasn't working. She blamed him and left him because he wasn't being a good provider. He ended up getting a job in his field, and 18 years later, she still isn't making any money doing her art. The whole quit your job to chase your dreams thing doesn't always work out. I feel like the positive stories always get circled around and we never hear enough of the negative ones. The positive ones are so heartwarming, but there's also serious consequences to the negative ones that people need to know about. My auntie divorced because they squeeze toothpaste from different ends. One of them likes to squeeze the tube from the bottom and the other from the top. She remarried and is happy with her second husband. Edit. Yes, it actually is about toothpaste. And they had their own tubes each. Oh man. That reminds me of the time my husband approached me dead serious and said he wanted to talk about something. I thought shit. Something is majorly wrong. We were together for about 12 years. And then he very gingerly explained that I always squeeze the toothpaste from the middle, but he likes it squeezed from the end. What? Apparently he was expecting this to be a big deal. I had never thought about it, so said okay, I'll make sure to do it that way from now on if it matters to you. I was so relieved. My friend told me of a couple he knew who already had a rocky relationship. They were having a curry in a nice little restaurant. The husband suddenly screamed hi-ya and karate chopped the stack of poppadoms. That was the final straw. She started the divorce the next day. Ah, the clown jester husband dad. Everyone else thinks he's great. People judge you for disliking his antics. But he is actually hell to live with. I knew a guy who got divorced because he and his wife stopped enjoying sex with each other. I asked him if he had talked to her about what she likes and tried doing more foreplay. He said no and was absolutely not willing to do either thing. Basically he expected her to just deal with him going in dry for the rest of their lives. It's like some of our Dead Bedrooms posts where OP insists that having a newborn and his wife being a Sam has nothing to do with her sudden lack of desire, refuses to do anything and weirdly demands that commenters give him a permission to divorce her, or cheat. Before Jay walked down the aisle, she said, "I don't love this guy." Double quote. She refused to call off the wedding BC all the money her parents spent and the guests were all there and amp. Divorced a month later. My dad was the best man at a wedding of his co-worker, which had already been decided between bride and groom to be sham. Marry, split money, never live together and then divorce. My mom refused to go with him. When I was a kid and I asked my mom why my grandpa and grandma broke up, she said they liked different things. Grandpa liked to watch golf and grandma liked to watch the news. I'm sure she was just dumbing it down for child me, but I always thought that was so stupid. Your mother was probably trying to prevent your childlike brain deciding one grandparent was good and the other bad and at fault for the split. whilst sparing you the hurtful things that were going on between them. She kept it simple and neutral. I wish other parents were so careful. Source: work in family law. Wasn't feeling it after a week. Meh. Better to get out early than late, I guess. But they probably should have felt this out before they got married. Ex-wife said I read too much. It had absolutely nothing to do with the fact she was jumping on another man's dick. So she said. Read any good books recently? I heard a story of a guy who took long hours at his job to get his wife through college, and once she finished college she left him because he wasn't on her level. He didn't have a degree despite making more money than her. I knew a guy who was very happy and successful. After like 15 years of marriage, his wife wanted to fulfill her dream of going to law school. He obviously paid for it. When she was done, she divorced him. I know there's probably more to it than it seems, but he was flawed and said she became arrogant and condescending during school, and he chalked it up to stress. She's fine. He's fine now. But what a story. I heard of a couple getting divorced in their 80s. When asked why they left it so late, they said, "We didn't want to do it while the children were still alive because it would have upset them." That's long been a joke among family law attorneys, but I'm sure it's happened somewhere. I went to a solicitor to arrange details for my side of an impending divorce from my then wife. I was pretty embarrassed talking about details as there was no great single reason for it, no cheating, abuse, violence etc., but a build-up of smaller reasons which saw us drift apart. The solicitor told me she'd dealt with many couples who divorced like this and for a lot less. The smallest reason given she ever had for an actual divorce was the fact the husband used to leave his socks on the floor instead of the laundry bin. Nothing else. I'd bet there were other reasons too, but the reason in the paperwork was the socks. Matthew Frey has a great book about this. This is how your marriage ends. It's not about the socks. It's about not being listened to, being ignored. She probably asked him countless times, over years, to pick up his socks. He didn't value her feelings enough to just pick up his socks and put them in the laundry bin. And every time she had to do it for him, she was reminded, he doesn't listen to me, he doesn't value my opinion. And I'd wager the socks were just the beginning. Thanks Mr. Frey, I was nearly the full divorced like this ! One of my friends got married at 22, and divorced a year later. The reason? Her husband sucked at providing her with a warm bath at the right temperature. Yes, you read that right. He drew her baths, and she was picky about the temperature, claiming it was always just this side of too cold. With the plumbing they had, it was a flipping miracle they had any hot water at all, never mind enough to fill a bathtub. Picky princess got back to her parents and I've cut contact with her after the divorce. I'm still friends with her ex. Great guy, he put up with way more crap than we would have from her. I can see it now, the final bath time fight. Babe, I swear to God if you can't get the bath temp right I'm gonna leave you. Okay, hold on my love, let me warm it up a little more for you. Unzips pants, starts peeing in the bath. Would you like to get in now and feel the warmth? Or I can always get you a toaster if you'd prefer. A couple I was friends with in college got married. A few years later they got divorced. A few years after that they both got sex changes. The joke was they would get remarried. They as of now have not. This is so funny because I have a friend who is FDM and was married before beginning the transition. He told his husband, I think we need to have a serious talk. I think I'm trans. And the husband replied, what a coincidence. I've been wanting to tell you I think I'm gay. Still happily married. My cousin and her husband divorced amicably because they were afraid of divorcing angrily later on. They are still together, just not married. That's what post-nups are for.